Okay, in this section, we're going to be talking about how to solve absolute value equations and absolute value inequalities. Now, you got three types. You got absolute value equal, absolute value less than, and absolute value greater than. They don't work the same, okay? You can't work them the same. You have to memorize how to set up each kind. So we're going to go through two examples of each to make sure you know how to set them up. Okay, so make sure you have your notes printed out and read through them. Absolute value always has two answers because you have two directions to move on a number line. So again, you want to make sure you memorize how to set up each problem. Okay, so let's do absolute value equal. Now, I've got this note right here that says before you can start, make sure the absolute value bars are by themselves, okay? Meaning there's no extra numbers. Like, we're going to have to deal with that 4 and that -6 over here, okay? Alright, so this is absolute value equal, okay? So let's look at the first one. If I look, these absolute value bars are by themselves. There's no extra numbers outside of them. So I'm good to go. Alright, so how do you do absolute value equal? You never change, okay, what's inside the absolute value bars. That's going to stay locked in at a 4x plus 2. That part you're not allowed to touch, okay? The part you change is this right side. Okay, so you're going to make two problems. Okay, one time you write 4x plus 2 equal to a positive 5, and one time you write it equal to a -5. It's this side that you change. Once it's positive, once it's negative, okay? And then you just solve them. Okay, so no big deal on both of them. I'm going to subtract the 2. So 4x equals 3 and 4x equals -7. And on both of them, I divide by 4. So my two answers would be x is 3/4 and x is -7/4. Okay. Alright, but our second example, it's a little bit different because I do have those extra numbers. I do have that 4 on the outside and that -6, okay? So when you have those extra numbers, what you want to do is get rid of the one at the back first. You need to move that -6 to the other side. So how would you move it to the other side? Add 6, okay? 4 times the absolute value of 3x minus 2 equals 28. Now, normally when we've got like parentheses, whatever's right outside the parentheses, we would distribute. But absolute value bars are different. They're not parentheses. They are straight. It's like a jail. You were locked out. You can't go in. So to get rid of the number on the front, what you're going to do is divide both sides by 4. Okay, so that's how you get rid of the number on the front. Through absolute value of 3x minus 2 equals 7. Now, this looks just like that. What you're going to do is make two problems. 1 times 3x minus 2 equals 7, and 1 times 3x minus 2 equals -7. Now remember, it's this number that changes. Whatever's inside the bars is stuck. Alright, so add 2. So 3x equals 9, and 3x equals -5. And then divide both sides by 3. Your two answers here are x would be 3 and x would be a -5/3. You're going to have a lot of fraction answers in these absolute values. Okay. All right, so that's how you do absolute value equal. All right, now let's look at absolute value less than. Okay. All right, so I'm going to write it over here so I have a little more room. Okay. For absolute value less than, okay, we say less than means let us make a sandwich. That's what I make my students say. Okay, to remember it. When you have that absolute value less than, you're going to say, all right, less than means let us make a sandwich. What you're going to do is right down the middle. Okay, you're not going to change it. But you're going to sandwich it in between two less thans. And since it's less than or equal to, I'll do that. Again, this is always the number you change. One time it's positive, one time it's negative. So the positive one goes on the right and the negative one goes on the left. And now we make one of these compounding quantities that we've been looking at. You know, our goal is to get x in the middle by itself. So the first thing I want to do is subtract 1 from all three sides. So So I'd get 10 is less than or equal to 3x is less than or equal to, nope, what did I do wrong? Sorry, I'm working too fast. Negative 12 is less than or equal to 3x is less than or equal to 10. And now divide all three sides by 3. So I get negative 4 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 10 thirds. Okay, so I've got where my negative 4 is, but 10 thirds, let's see. How many times does 3 go into 10? 1, so 3 and a third. So I'm going to be coloring in between. Remember, if x is in the middle, you shade in the middle. I'm going to be coloring in between negative 4 and 3 and a third, so by right there. So let's do that. And they both get brackets. So my answer is negative 4 to 10 thirds. Okay. So absolute value less than, you're going to sandwich it up. Let's do another one. All right. Again, let me write it for more room. Okay, so you want to look at this one and see those extra numbers and say, I got to move this. Remember, you always move the back one first, so I'm going to add the 6. 2 times the absolute value of x plus 4 is less than or equal to 4. And then you can't distribute that 2. We said we would divide to get rid of it. Okay, now you can't sandwich anything up or write anything twice until it's by itself. Okay, get it by itself first. Now say, all right, I have absolute value less than, and we know less than means let us make a sandwich. So right down the middle, sandwich it in between two less thans. And this is the number you change. One time it's positive and one time it's negative. Alright, this one's a little bit easier than the one we had a minute ago because I'm going to get x in the middle by itself. So the only thing I have to do is get rid of that 4. So I'm going to subtract it from all three sides. So I get a negative 6 is less than x is less than negative 2. So negative 6 would be right here. So I want to color in between a negative 6 and a negative 2. And looking at both of them, they would both get parentheses. So my answer is negative 6 to negative 2. Alright, and finally, let's look at our absolute value greater thans. Okay, alright, so let me copy this. This one does not work like a less than. Don't try to work it like a less than. It's different. This is a greater than. Alright, you have to just memorize this. For greater than, you're going to write it twice. Over here, nothing changes. You're just going to copy your problem down again, okay, without the bars. But over here, two things change, okay? Remember, you never touch the middle, okay? But what you're going to do is two things. You're going to flip it. Oops, sorry. Let me get that back up there. You're going to do two things. You're going to flip it, and you're going to make the number negative. So flip it and make the number negative. You want your arrows facing away from each other, okay? So you have to just flat out memorize that. And then you solve them both. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So 3x is less than 1 and 3x is greater than 15. And then let's divide by 3. So x is less than a 1/3 and greater than 5. Okay, so you've got two separate pieces, so we want to graph them both. Okay, I want to be less than a 1/3. Well, here's 1/3. I want to be less than a 1/3. And that gets a parenthesis. And I want to be greater than a 5, so it's that way with parenthesis. Okay, so now how many sections of your number line do you see colored? You see 2. You're going to have to write them both. So this piece starts at negative infinity and goes to a third. And this piece starts at 5 and goes forever out to infinity. What you'll do is join those two pieces up with the little u. Okay, it means union in math. Okay, and so greater than, absolute value greater than, always has those two pieces, or it has two separate pieces, and you'll join them up with the u. Alright, one more. Alright, absolute value of 3x minus 3 over 9 is greater than or equal to 1. So it's by itself, no extra numbers, so I'm going to write twice. Over here, nothing changes. And over here, do two things. Flip it and make the one negative. Okay. Now, let's get rid of that 9 on the bottom. That 9 is under the whole side, so I'm going to multiply each whole side by 9 to cancel it out, to get rid of it. So I'd be left with 3x minus 3 is less than or equal to a negative 9, and 3x minus 3 is greater than or equal to a positive 9. Okay, get rid of those fractions. Alright, add 3 to both sides. So 3x is less than or equal to negative 6 and greater than or equal to 12. And then divide by 3. So my two answers would be less than or equal to a negative 2 and greater than or equal to 4. So let's graph both those. It's going to be less than or equal to a negative 2, so that's that way with the bracket. And I'm going to be greater than 4, so that's that way also with the bracket. Alright, so my two separate pieces would be negative infinity up to negative 2. And then my other piece would be 4 to infinity and join them up with that u. Okay, go practice your homework.